So now we're going to go to the book of Zechariah, chapter 14, verse 13. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from the Lord shall be among them. We're going to get the rest of the verse in a minute, but in that day, in that final scene of the final chapter of prophecy, in that day, there's going to be a great tumult. And this means a noise of confusion. So among the people of the earth, especially here in America, it's going to be a great noise of confusion. It's going to be a great panic among the masses of the people. Now let's see what's going to be the reason for that great panic. The great day of the Lord is near, the Lord's return. It is near, it hasteth greatly. Even the voice of the day of the Lord. The mighty man shall cry there bitterly. That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble, distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. That's what I saw in my dream. The sky was completely black. You couldn't see the sun at all. You couldn't tell the difference between night and day. And what you could see was red, yellow, orange, the fire, and just a blinding light, and everything being obliterated. That's the day of the Lord, the day of his wrath. And what's going to come first before all this destruction? Verse 16, a day of the trumpet, because they say the trumpet's going to blow, and that's going to be the sound to initiate the destruction and us receiving our salvation. But again, a day of trumpet and alarm against the fenced cities, against the high towers. So, what is this alarm? That's the nuclear siren. And we know how bizarre that nuclear siren sounds. It has a strange sound for this strange act in this final chapter of the movie, which is nothing more than the strange work of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. Because you got fire alarms, tornado alarms, your clock alarms that wake you up in the morning. They all got eerie sounds. But ain't nothing more eerie, ain't nothing more strange than that nuclear siren. That's why Isaiah 28 and 21, that the Lord may bring forth his work, his strange work. So the strangest alarm is going to be in the strangest chapter, which will bring forth them strange rains. And now that we know that the nuclear sirens are going to be going off before this destruction, that's what caused that great tumult, that great panic amongst the masses of the people. Now we're going to read it all the way through. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from the Lord shall be among them. That's the trumpets being blown in the heavens in the day of alarms, which would be those nuclear sirens. That's going to cause a great tumult of mass panic among the masses of the people, and they shall lay hold, every one, on the hand of his neighbor. So that's why I told you in my dream, it's like all hell had broken loose already. Everything was through. And it's like that a great panic had already happened, but it was quiet now. It was so quiet, it was eerie. And when you looked around, you just saw everybody laying hold, everyone on the hand of his neighbor. That's a picture right here to the top. So, in fewer words, everybody was holding hands for that final farewell moment. And his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. So people was locking hands like that final farewell. Everybody had accepted their fate for what it was, destruction from the Lord. Those strange rains was coming. And as that fire started approaching and devouring everything, what happened? Zechariah 13 and 8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, two parts therein shall be cut off and die. That's the 2/3. Those who rejected this truth, they're going to die by the sword, by the famine, or by the pestilence. But if they do escape all of that, they're going to die by these strange rains. So the Lord going to preserve you through all of that, just to destroy you in his nuclear fire. But the third shall be left therein. So those who the Lord preserves for this nuclear destruction, the Lord is going to preserve us too to bring us through the nuclear destruction. And I will bring the third part through the fire. That's the 1/3 elect, those who gave ear to this truth. Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is going to literally bring us through the fire. Now, in the time of Egypt, the Lord what? He brought them through the water. The water rose up like a wall on the left and right hand side, and they went through it. That's why in my dream, I told you, me and the company that I was with, we had great hope. We had a strong faith. We was looking at the fire approaching us. We had fear, but we had hope. And we had faith in that hope. And all of a sudden, we was brought through the fire. It was all of a sudden. We couldn't even keep up with what was happening, so we was brought through the fire by going up. So salvation from Babylon is going to cause us to go up. And we're going to go up by what the world calls spaceships or UFOs, which would be the chariots of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah. And now we're bringing that third part through the fire by going up. And now we'll refine them as silver is refined, and I will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai is my God. So we went up. The Lord brought us through the fire. Everybody didn't go up though. Most people was left in that fire, and that's what you don't want to take part of. And knowing that the Lord not going to let you die, and he's going to slow down time, that's what? That's that strange death. You don't want no parts of that. You know, they got a saying, hell on earth. Hell is literally going to be on earth. In my dream, what I saw, that would be the literal definition of hell. That's why I described it as a 10-year-old boy, was like, dang, I was in hell. But I was on some kind of flying roller coaster. It's a strange dream. Just to touch bases here one more time, and now we're bringing the third part through the fire. And I said that we was brought through the fire by going up. Well, that's Revelation 11 and 12. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And that's what happened. And it was all of a sudden. I wasn't even prepared for it. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. So as we ascended up in this cloud, our enemies, those who were left behind, they remained in the earth to be consumed by that nuclear fire. Now, we gotta dive into this word cloud. So we went up. We didn't go in the literal cloud. This is where the Christian church and you Americans mess up the scriptures. This is a code word for UFO, which are the chariots of the Lord. And we're going to show that. So, key word is cloud. They ascended up to heaven in the cloud. Now let's look at this verse. Psalms 104 and 3. Who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters. This is talking about the so-called UFOs that be underwater. Who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind. So these will be the chariots that fly in the sky. But the middle part here is the focus. Who maketh the clouds his chariot. So cloud is a code word for chariot. So when we see and they ascended up to heaven in the cloud, it will actually be they ascended up to heaven in a chariot. Also, too, that we want to look at real quick, I got the etymology for the word chariot. Middle English from Middle French, from Old French, from charrier. Charrier means to transport. From char or chair, which literally means vehicle. From Latin, charis. So chariot literally means vehicle to transport or vehicle of transportation. So we know now that Psalms 104 and 3, who make up the clouds his chariot. chariot by definition is a vehicle of transportation. So clouds is a code word for chariot. So we can replace this with chariot, and they ascend it up to heaven in a chariot. We know a chariot by definition is a vehicle of transportation. So it will read, and they ascended up to heaven in a vehicle of transportation. This is that vehicle of transportation. I got a quick clip that we gonna show from this movie Nope for those who saw it.
It's in the cloud. It's in the cloud. OJ! It's in the cloud!
She said it's in the clouds. And that's the actual UFO right there. It's in the clouds. So when we read, who maketh the clouds his chariot, meaning that the Lord can hide his chariots in the clouds. Now we see what it means, who maketh the cloud his chariots, because the Lord can literally take his chariot, take his vehicles, and hide them in the clouds. Or he could take his vehicles of transportation, his chariots, and he can disguise them as the cloud. So a lot of these clouds that we see are not actual clouds. They're the Lord's chariots or his vehicles of transportation. So again, and they send it up to heaven in the cloud, in the chariot, in the vehicle of transportation. That was how we went up when we was brought through the fire. That's why it's going to be a strange salvation. It's going to be nothing nobody has ever seen before. And we're going to continue to Psalm 68 and 17. The chariots, the vehicles of transportation of Yahweh are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai in the holy place. So yeah, the chariots, the vehicles of the Lord is thousands upon thousands. And on these thousands of vehicles, there's thousands of angels. So what the world calls UFOs, they're not being flown by aliens. They are being flown by the holy angels. So there's angels on these vehicles of transportation. So when you see the chariots of fire, what the world calls comets, asteroids, shooting stars, that's the holy angels that's traveling. They're doing the Lord's work in the earth. And the Lord is telling you he got 20,000 vehicles of transport because we will see them. That's why if you take all the different UFO sightings, some of them will be similar, but a lot of them will be different. All kinds of shapes, sizes, colors, forms, doing stuff that humans can't explain, but it belongs to the Lord. So the Lord telling you he got 20,000 chariots with thousands of angels because we see them already, but they're all going to come at once. They're going to fill the skies. And that's why Esau pushed so much aliens and alien invasions. He don't want you to know that the holy angels exist. And when this so-called invasion happens, there's going to be thousands of chariots in the sky. That's all going to have different purposes. And that's going to bring us to Habakkuk 3 and 8. Was the Lord displeased against the rivers? Revelation 17 and 15. The rivers, the water, the sea, that's concerning the people. Was thine anger against the rivers? Was thy wrath against the sea? That thou did ride upon thine horses and thy chariots of salvation. These chariots, these will be the vehicles of our salvation. That's why, going back to Revelation 11 and 12, and they heard a voice from heaven saying, come up hither, and they ascended up to heaven in the cloud, in the chariot, in the vehicle of transportation, and their enemies beheld them. Well, those will be the vehicles of our salvation. So among these thousands of chariots that the Lord has, some of them would be the vehicles of our salvation. They'd be like the ambulance of the Lord, but some of these chariots are going to be chariots of destruction, meaning it's going to wreak havoc on the earth. Meaning some of these chariots ain't nothing but battle tanks for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. Some of these chariots will be his battle tanks, his air force. So Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is going to be on a search and rescue mission. Search and rescue the elect and seek and destroy the wicked. That's the strangeness of the Lord's work. Simultaneously, while things are being obliterated and exterminated, you got the elect that's going to be being rescued. And these chariots of salvation are only for Israel. That's why Isaiah 45:17 reads, "But Israel shall be saved, not the whole world, not all people. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord with an everlasting salvation. Ye, Israel, shall not be ashamed nor confounded, world without end." So while the other nations are being brought to their end, Israel, the elect, is going to be saved. That's that strange final chapter of the movie. You're going to have an extermination and a salvation taking place with strange rains, nuclear missiles falling into the earth. So the Lord saying, "Come up hither," and we ascended in the cloud, in the vehicle, in the chariot. That was us receiving our salvation by the chariots of salvation.